There's a saying, if a dog moves forward, you're safe. If it backs away, don't go any further. People say dogs are very spiritual creatures. They can sense danger and see things that humans can't. If one day your dog suddenly growls or barks madly at thin air or at someone, you'd better be careful. Maybe it's really seeing something. This story happened when I was a child. At the time, I lived with my grandmother in the countryside. Afraid I'd feel lonely, my father asked someone to buy me a puppy. It was so adorable and I loved it deeply. I named him Wong Tai, meaning prosperous fortune. Since then, Wong Tai became my closest friend throughout childhood. In the blink of an eye, a year passed. Wong Tai grew from a tiny pup into a large dog, tall enough to be half a head taller than me when standing. But despite his size, he was very gentle. Whenever he met strangers, he'd just wag his tail happily, never showing any aggression. That summer, I was playing in the yard with Wong Tai when we suddenly heard a loud bang at the gate. Turning around, I saw my grandmother returning home, accompanied by an old lady. The woman was wearing old clothes, about 70 or 80 years old, with a pale complexion. If it weren't for my grandma supporting her, she might not even have been able to walk. But right at that moment, I heard a low growl. Turning back, I saw Wong Tai, usually so obedient, baring his teeth and barking furiously at the old woman. Afraid he might scare her, I quickly pulled him back and yelled at him to quiet down. My grandmother quickly helped the old lady inside. Even though I had restrained him, Wong Tai kept barking nonstop, as if he deeply hated the old woman. Though I was still a child, something about the situation didn't feel right. Grandma told the woman to rest and cooked her a hot bowl of noodles. But strangely, the woman took just one bite and put her chopsticks down, saying she wasn't hungry. She claimed she'd fainted from anger after failing to find her relatives. Grandma, being kind-hearted, told her to stay at our house for a few days while continuing the search. Hearing that, I also felt sorry for her and told Wong Tai not to scare her again. But he kept watching her with hostility, occasionally growling under his breath. That afternoon, I took Wong Tai down to the river to catch frogs. We played until sunset before heading home. But as I opened the gate, I saw the old lady squatting in front of the dog's kennel. I didn't know what she was doing. She looked startled when she saw me, quickly greeted me and backed away. As soon as Wong Tai saw her, he instantly became aggressive again, barking wildly as if facing an enemy. Panicking, the old lady ran into the house, almost forgetting her frail old legs. That's when I started to feel something was very wrong, but I couldn't quite figure out what. That night, Grandma cooked a delicious meal, but the old woman again barely ate. Around 9 p.m., I went outside to use the bathroom and noticed something strange about Wong Tai. Normally so energetic, he just lay in his kennel, lifeless, as if he were sick. I thought maybe he had caught a cold from playing in the water, so I comforted him and went back to sleep. But in the middle of the night, something happened. Around 2 a.m., while I was fast asleep, I vaguely felt someone entering my room. Then I heard strange rustling sounds by my ear. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids were heavy and I couldn't move. Just as I began to feel extremely uncomfortable, suddenly the sound of barking pierced the silence of the night. I jolted awake, feeling pain and itchiness on my arm. A shadow was moving around me. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I looked down at my arm and was immediately drenched in cold sweat. Right in front of me was the old woman. She was gripping my arm tightly, her eyes bloodshot, mouth filled with sharp fangs, greedily sucking the blood from my arm. Terrified, I realized something was terribly wrong. I struggled to pull my arm away, but her strength was inhuman, like an iron clamp holding me down. I cried out in fear. At that very moment, I heard Wong Tai's furious barking again. Looking toward the door, I saw him leap into the room and sink his teeth into the woman's arm. Under the fierce attack, she was forced to release me, screaming and trying to escape. She stumbled and ran outside into the yard. Through the window, I witnessed something horrifying. She leapt up a tall wall and disappeared into the night in a panic, chased by Wong Tai's angry barking. Just as I thought it was over, I saw Wong Tai suddenly stumble and collapse. Terrified, I rushed to hold him, but his body was already cold. I screamed for Grandma. When she arrived, she said Wong Tai had already died a while ago. but I just saw him save me with my own eyes. Later, the villagers said that woman was a blood-sucking hag from legend, hundreds of years old. Wong Tai had been poisoned by her beforehand. He was already dead, but his spirit returned to save me. The next morning, I found one of Wong Tai's teeth in my room, perhaps lost when he bit her. I've always kept that tooth with me, as if Wong Tai still watches over me to this day.